Hats off, Reba. Hats off, Kemlon. So happy to see you in the crowd. Surveillance is real. Okay. Folks are still trickling in. So I will take down my little stand. I am Emmy Bright, and I am one of the artists in residence for print media here at Cranbrook. I am absolutely over the moon thrilled to have my old friend and collaborator, JRUretsky, here as one of our visiting artists over Zoom tonight, and delighted to see both my department and friends from Providence in the crowd. Thank goodness for Instagram for folks knowing about what else going on. Typically if you hear the banging, there's a puppy running around my studio. So, one of the many delights of life right now. Typically when I'm sort of buying time and critique, I talk about what we're drinking. And today I'm having Trader Joe's organic pomegranate white tea, because I'd like to come to this caffeinated. So, hello, Eli. Happy to see you. Happy to see you, Olivia. So I'm going to do a little bit of business before I get into the introduction. I am delighted to have some of my Cranberry students as co-hosts tonight. And I'm just going to ask you all to please leave your video off unless you're asking a question at the end. So happy to be here. Happy to see you. I see some connections happening in the chat. Everybody feel free to chit chat it up. So let's begin now. Welcome to one of our spring visiting artist lectures. This one is by JRUretsky, who is from Providence, Rhode Island. Before we get into the introductions, I'd like to thank the Applebaum Family Foundation for supporting the print media department in our visiting artist program. JR is one of the artists we brought in thanks to their grant. So thank you so much. And just to get into it, I first saw JR perform in a video screening at the Dirt Palace Collective Space in Providence. And it was just a bunch of different artists showing videos. And I remember a few distinct things from this performative video. And one was JR was sort of passing a video back and forth between herself and her friend. And there was a part where the friend had kind of made these little paper puppets and was washing these puppets. And then the next scene I saw was JR sitting in the sink, sort of scrubbing themselves with a dish brush. And I was like, this is somebody who I have got to know. So based on that, we became friends, and I got to see a lot more of their work and their performances. And I love their work for so many reasons. And the body with grief and with humor, and trying to find a way to, I don't know, live and survive in a world that is pretty rough. And I felt like, especially now, especially during COVID, it's important to grapple with both, I don't know, grief and greatness at the same time, which is something I think JR does exquisitely well. So I'm so excited to have them here, and I'm going to turn to the more formal bio rather than just my fanboy stuff. So just a sec. JRUretsky is an artist, performer, musician, and art curator living in Providence, Rhode Island. Uretsky weaves performance, music, video, puppetry, and sculpture into emotionally charged, affective artworks that shift seamlessly between autobiography and fiction. Uretsky's work confronts viewers with expressive confessions that test the bounds of comfort, personal space, and acceptable presence. The characters that emerge through their performances are relatable, yet also alien and nonspecific, forging an ambiguous space where emotion is the remaining constant. Uretsky's work was included in the 2013 DeCordova Biennial at the DeCordova Sculpture Park and Museum. She has also performed and exhibited at the Institute of Contemporary Art Boston, Art Basel in Miami, Carpenter Center for the Visual Arts at Harvard University, and the Rhode Island School of Design Museum, as well as the Museum of Art and Design in New York. Uretsky's work has been published by print, online, and video journals such as Headmaster Magazine, Gaga Stigmata, Big Red and Shiny, and Aspect, the Chronicle of New Media Art. In addition to being the curator at the New Bedford Art Museum, Uretsky has curated exhibitions at Art Space New Haven, Connecticut, AS220, and the Wedding Cake House, Dirt Palace in Providence, Rhode Island, and the Distillery Gallery in Boston, Massachusetts. They are an active member of the Providence creative community, and Uretsky sits on the Dirt Palace Public Projects Board of Trustees. Please join me in welcoming JR to the room. I can't wait for you to see their work.
Hey. Hi. This is okay. Hi. That was a thank you for the intro. I'll say I got a question for Nellie. Can I only see the panelists and I can't see the faces of the attendees? Is that a thing you know about?
Yeah,
That's true.
That's
You won't
right.
be able to see all the...
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
right. I'm gonna need the four of you to turn your cameras on, so I'm not just like talking to words. I feel like
Okay, everybody on, let's do this.
well, it actually doesn't have, it just has to be the panelists. The attendees can turn theirs on too, but I won't see them, which is sad.
Just the panelists then. Oh, Grace Maku is clapping in the chat. And I think Rebecca Parker is too.
Oh, I love that.
I'm happy to add, if you'd like to have more audience members, I'm happy to add people who sort of like raise their hand. I can add them to the panelist realm and then they can turn their videos on if that's comfortable for you.
Yeah, it just would be easier to like interact with human faces. Hi. Until then, I'm just this whole performance is for Emmy and Nellie and I don't know how do you say your name?
Olivia.
Olivia. Okay, wow. I was not taught phonics, so
And Demario.
oh, Demario
And Ken.
and cool.
Oh,
Okay.
Eli wants to join. This is great. Let's get everyone in the room who wants to be in the room and be a smiling face. Meryl, look at this. Thanks, Nellie. You're magic.
Okay. Meryl's got some great hair. Okay, cool.
And would you pop on your video?
Let me see. Oh, hello. That's my buddy Elle. Okay, you guys are so great. Thank you for doing this. I feel like if I was having to like speak to an image of myself, it would just get real dark real quick. So this is good. This is good. While you guys are all coming on, yes. And don't worry, I'm not gonna like do sing-along and stuff. I'm not gonna make you turn on your audio. If you want to sing along, I encourage that. But you know, be comfortable. Look at that babe, Kizzy. Okay. So welcome. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I'm currently in my basement. That's why I'm wearing outside clothes, hard clothes as we call them, as opposed to soft pants and soft clothes. Yeah, Emmy, thank you for that intro. That was very sweet. And I forgot what video you were talking about until the very, I was like, maybe she's not talking about me. She was, but yes, thank you. So before I like do artist talks, I always like to give a little heads up that like unfortunately or fortunately, like my life and my personal life and my art practice are all sort of like entangled in a real messy way. And I guess that has a lot to do with like just how making art is the way I like think through things and like cope with the world. It's gonna be a fun one tonight. So So that's sort of the first, you're just going to learn a lot of info about me. So sorry and great. Okay, cool. The other thing is throughout the evening, I want to practice feeling a feeling. It can be any feeling you want to feel, because sometimes some of us, like me, have trouble with naming and feeling certain feelings. So anytime you feel a feeling, rage, disgust, love, I confuse feelings with sensations often. My therapist told me hungry, horny, not feelings, sensations. But they feel like anger and boredom. So anytime you feel anything, if you could just hit the raise hand throughout the whole thing, and it's what it's gonna do. It's gonna help us like be able to sort of pause and be like, oh, okay, like yeah, that's a thing I'm feeling. And then you raise your hand if you're feeling brave, and you can share it. You don't even have to tell us what you're feeling. I often don't know. It's part of my mental health issues. So, so that's that. We got the thumb, we got the, you know. Also, I'll say, like, if something with the audio goes awry, and this happened on my birthday party, and it wasn't just my birthday party, it was also Janaea Kizzy's birthday party, where I had to start off, we were doing karaoke, I sang an entire Smith song as hard as I could, everyone, and then I looked at the chat, and the audio for the actual karaoke part was not on. So I was like doing solo Morrissey, and it was terrible. So if that happens during this, someone just fucking butt in. Just say something. You see something, say something. We'll just have Nellie do it. Nellie can just politely interrupt me and be like, you gotta start that bit over, bro. And I will, and we'll get through it. What else do I want to talk about? Okay, so speaking of things that you're gonna learn about me, let's go back to 2019. You guys remember 2019? Yes, okay, barely. In 2019, after 30-something years of being too paralyzed with fear to admit this to myself, I decided we're gonna chop the boobs off, not like with surgery, on purpose, you know. And I finally like said it, and then I told my parents. So the two hard parts were done. And then 2020 hit, and all of a sudden this thing that took me forever to realize about myself that I wanted became unattainable yet again. Right when I just broke, you know, I almost said broke the seal. That's not what I meant. But so then, and we were going around checking in, and like it got to me, and I panicked because what do you say when you're supposed to check in? And I was like, I'm cutting off my boobs and I'm making boob art now, booby art. And so that's where I'm at. So we're gonna talk about some booby art, and we're gonna talk about some other stuff. And then also, the thing that's interesting about being invited to do this talk now is that, like, I'm, like, in the middle of making a thing, as many of you are, I'm sure. And so to talk about it, like, I don't have any language yet, or I've got parts of language for what I'm doing. And so I'm just going to kind of show you, I'm going to talk about some people I'm learning from, and, you know, and we're going to sing some songs. It's going to be great. I think I've warned you about all of the things. Okay, great. Well, let's get started. This very first video, my 2019 boob art. I hope you enjoy it.
it's been in the back of my mind for as long as I can remember. Like, like before I knew I was this. No, I wouldn't say I hate them. I don't even really see them. They're like the opposite of a phantom limb. I used to have this reoccurring dream where we're all in a doctor's office, me, my mom, my dad, and the doctor's looking pretty grim. And my folks, they just are like trying not to cry. And I can't hear anything, you know, it's just silence. But I can like feel their stress. And then out of nowhere, I heard this voice. It was the doctor. He said, unfortunately, with the cancer this advanced, we're forced to amputate. Chaos erupts and like fills that doctor's office with like noise and arguing and like crying. And it was just so loud, you know, it was so loud that there was like no space. And I don't think there's like ever any space for me to just know what I want.
Interesting.
Counselor,
I just find it interesting.
your help has been invaluable to my recovery, but look, I'm better. The injuries have healed.
Those you can see in the mirror.
The nightmares have stopped. All I need now is just a little time to myself.
I agree. In fact, I'm delighted you're going. It's just that the choice of where you're going could stand some scrutiny. You do need time. You cannot achieve complete recovery so quickly. And it's perfectly normal after what you've been through to spend a great deal of time trying to find yourself again.
And what better place to do so than on the streets of one's home village?
Interesting.
Okay, so Reiki time. Hold on. Inviting, you know, it's been nice to be here. And I was just gonna, I guess, you gotta share the screen. I guess I just want to say happy birthday to the birthday boy. Everyone loves karaoke night. Yeah. The birthday boy's turning 29. Oh, a song. I just paid a guy a bunch of money to make them pets. Don't break off the hook. And then nurses have been slapped in loose. And the nurses. Woo! Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, this background, can you just turn the background off? Woo! Okay. So, welcome. Welcome. Thank you. That was the puppeteering, the disco ball. So, it's over. That part's over now. So cool. So, something that's, like, important for me, like, to think about when I'm working in my studio is, because I often get lost, you know, like, like, not just, like, at first, like, 90% of the time I'm avoidant, and then the rest of the time I'm lost. And, so when I get in my studio, it's fun to, oh, can you hear me? Hands are raising.
Oh, I was just saying, I was being like, I have a feeling. I was having a feeling.
Okay, good. I was like, you know, it's like, I told you to raise your hands, and then I forgot that I told you. And this is pretty common for me. So, sorry, yes, raise your hand if you're getting a feeling or if you relate or anything like that. And then if the audio drops out, which apparently I am, that's the biggest fear. Intervene. Okay, so when I'm lost in my studio, because as Emmy knows, like usually when I feel like sometimes when I'm making art, I'm like walking into a dark room with the art bat and swinging until I hit something, and like that's okay. And that's like right now I'm like, all right, we're making booby art, we're writing emo songs, we're just playing like all of Peter Hook's hooks on the bass and stuff like that, and I don't know when it'll turn into, you know, the art. But yeah, so that video I made actually a year ago today. Isn't that crazy? That's a year ago was the last time I performed. And when 2020 hit, it was like, oh, well, this is cool. I don't like hanging out with people anyway. But I couldn't like make anything, you know? And sometimes when I can't make things, I like to like have band practice or like get with other people, with a purpose and a task. It's very important. I just can't, but we couldn't do that either. And trust me, I tried. I was like, called every single one of my friends. I was like, let's call this a jam. And they're like, dude, it's like a pandemic. Like, we can't. And I'm like, okay. It's clear that if I were a single person in a pandemic, I would be patient X. Like, but then I got better and I have some, you know, I'm not spreading a disease. Anyway, so I had to start playing music with myself. Which, believe it or not, is something I've been doing since I was like 13, and it was fun to kind of return to that. And I also 2020 started drawing again. So the print that we're gonna work on together is actually based on a couple of like weird drawings where where I was like trying to think about bodies that I would want my body to look like, since I have so much into mental separation from, you know, the husk And so, so then I was like, I'll just like look at like the bodies that give me like weird feelings. I call these feelings transy feelings. That might not be the right thing to say, but like, yeah, like for example, I'll tell you some that are not embarrassing. When I was a kid, I liked Tom, the guitar player from Rage Against the Machine. Like, just, I wanted to look like him, you know? I wanted to wear my guitar, like, really high and, you know, be like, and like, be like a scrawny dude and have a hat on. That was, like, his sort of top was a thing that I had some transy feelings about. Childish Gambino's current body. We're not talking like, what's that show? Community body, where he's like 26 and ripped. I'm like, he's 30, in his 30s. He's clearly smokes a ton of weed. He is looking great, and he's looking like he's having a great time. Maybe that's the torso I want. You know, and then I just made like a terrifying jump to like leg meat as I'm doing these drawings. So I was looking at a lot of like gymnasts and like also Serena Williams. And so it's like, okay, well, what's your goal here, bro? Like scrawny dude, like punk rock dude top, and Serena, an Olympic athlete leg. So it was really, I don't know still. So those are some of the things I'm drawing and thinking about. And let's see. Okay, what I was saying before is when I'm in my studio and I'm stuck, which is most of the time, and I was stuck trying to think of stuff to say to you guys today, I always try to like return to what is true and what is helpful. And because of my like, you know, slew of mental health issues, what is true is always a little hard, you know. And what is helpful is like, okay, like I'm sort of new to like figuring out what would be helpful for me. But when I was thinking about this talk and this performance, I was like, okay, I know my audience because I really don't know the students here, but my audience are like MFA students that survived 2020. Like, and I think that that's a big deal. Like, I can honestly say that if I was an MFA in 2020, like, well, I don't know if I would have, like, I would have been dead or like fucked like 30% of my colleagues. Like, that's how 2020 would have gone for me. So, and Emmy told me to say 30% rather than 3 because there was only 5 of us. And technically it's 4 if I count myself, which I do. So yeah, so I'm making boob art. You guys survived 2020. And if I were you, I wouldn't have done it. And if I were me, which I am, I would want to give you guys some encouragement. Like less wisdom, more encouragement. Because I think that's kind of like, you know, our capacity right now. So the next thing I want to do is I want to introduce you to my buddy Dave. And he just has some stuff that he wants to say to you.
Hi, I'm Dave, and this is Encouragements with Dave. So, when you go for a new job, don't be like, oh, I hope they take me, oh, I feel insecure and nervous and anxious. Nah, fuck that. They're lucky to have you, because you got skills that pay the bills. Okay, master's degree. What? Bachelor's degree. That too. Okay. Many talents. Been around the world a couple times. Saying you have many books which you've read and that you have opinions about. Okay? You have opinions too on other things. You're smart. You can put cohesive sentences together. You're good with people. You know, people person. They like you. Everyone's drawn to you. You're a champion. You got an aura that people go, oh, I just want to show her. She's so cool, and I like being around because she's funny and weird. And people are like, oh yeah, I know. And then they do, and everyone wants to be there. And then you got guys like me that just be like, oh man, she's awesome. Oh, I want to cuddle her so because she's so talented and smart and pretty and handsome. And she's got a mustache, and it tickles me in a weird way that only her mustache can tickle me. So, you know, it's a total package. It's 100% postmarkage stamped, mailed, sealed of approval. Put the lock and the key in the box. You know, you just gotta deliver it on home if you want it. It's yours if you want. You know, it's like free food. You know, it's like free grapes at the table. You know, if you want them, they're there. If you don't, you don't. Someone else will take it. But if you want it, it's yours. You know, no questions asked, no stress, no worries. You know, just gotta do what you want to do. You know, if they don't like it, say thanks. You know, walk out with colors. That's the thing. You're classy, respectful. You know, you say, oh, all right, your job seems great. You know, but you know, I think I'm looking for something else. You know, you even gotta tell them that you deserve better. Say, I think I'm looking for something else right now. Walk out with flying colors. You know, they say, wow, that woman knows how to handle herself. She got class. You know, because that's what you do. You know, and let's go to the next thing and get something else good. You know, because you know, you're looking good, your body's good, your hair is good, face is good. You know, what else do you need? You got all these things going for you. You know, your car's red, shiny, looks nice. You know, you pull up someone and go, ooh, who's that? Ooh, that car's red. Ooh, you know. You know, you ain't got a bike, but who needs a bike? You know, you got a car, so you know, you got ways to get around. That's all you need to have. So, you know, you can cook. You know, be like, hey, I can cook food. Right? Most human beings, you know, should be able to do it, but you know, some people can't. They just buy all the food out. Say, no, I want a vegan, right? A week ago, guess what? I'm making patties that you didn't even know about. Doing all kinds of vinaigrettes, dressings, vegetables, whatever. No big deal. It's because you're adaptable. You adapt to situations. That's all you do, you know? You walk into a situation, analyze it, say, what are the objectives? What are the problems? What are the things I need to figure out with this whole situation? You do it, and you fucking break it down, and you execute. And what you devise, execute. And that's it, you know? That's what champions do. They see what they gotta do, and they do it. You know, there's no half-stepping involved. It's just bing, bang, boom. So, you know, job's yours if you want it. That's all I'm saying, you know, but if it's a little bit less than what you want, then, you know, like an animal you can't have, set it free, and if it comes back to you, it was meant to be. Something like that. This concludes the first session of Encouragements with Dave. I'm Dave.
You guys like oh, turn me back on. So, yeah, Dave gave me that pep talk before I went to CAA. You guys know what CAA is? Yeah. You will. You might. Hi, Aaron. CAA is the College Art Association Conference. Maybe I'm saying that right? I don't know. It's where you go when you're a sad adjunct professor and you want a job and you all go to one fucking hotel room. No, not hotel room, but you go to a hotel and you go to these conferences and no one pays for you to go because you're an adjunct and you don't matter. So you go, and if you're lucky, you get some interviews. And if you're really lucky, those interviews take place on a bed. I'm not kidding. It didn't get sexual for me, but it was because they need like a place to do an interview. So they rent a hotel room in this hotel. And you walk in and you're like, do I want to be a sculpture professor? Do I want to live in the middle of the country. Yes, just give me a fucking job. And so that's what CAA is. Anyway, he gave me that pep talk before CAA. And then I just keep it around, and I listen to it every once in a while, especially when I'm applying for new jobs. So Dave's great. So I'm gonna sing one last song for us, and then we're gonna do some Q&A. And remember those like moments with your little hand feelings, and when you feel the feel, you put up the hands. We're still good with that? Cool. Because we're going to do a couple of, well, just one really, exercise through this song. So before I start thinking, I want to encourage you guys to think of one thing you've done pretty recently that you're proud of. You know, it could be something really big, like, oh my God, I was gonna be like you're pregnant? No. I mean, yeah, cool. That's you. Something big, like, you know, getting your MFA from the 7th best printmaking department in the world, or whatever it is. And I hear that most of you don't make prints too, so we're changing the medium. Or maybe it's something small, like today was my day off, and this fucking contractor called me, and I was just like, don't answer your phone, bro. No one's gonna stop you from being a workaholic except for you. And I looked at the phone, and I looked back up at the episode of Bridgerton that I was watching, and I chose to not answer the phone. I chose to watch a lot of sex on that show. That show's beautiful trash. Anyway, so I'm proud of myself. I'm like, yes, Dr. Justin. So you guys all get a hand if you all got something in your mind that you're a little proud of. Great. All right. If you don't have it yet, that's cool. Think about it, you know? But I can play Casio drums and talk at the same time. Oh, feel the Casio drums. Yes. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Casio drums. It means a lot for me to see the PVD people in the place, so thank you for being here. Okay, so you guys have the thing that you're proud of, right? It's in there. Now I want you to sit with that feeling for a minute. Just sit with the actual feeling. Okay, now I want you to imagine if you've done something kind of small that you're a little bit ashamed of. The kind of shame that you can still feel, like even if it happened to you as a kid and you're like, ugh, and your stomach just kind of, you do a little inside crunch. Give me a hand if you can think of it. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, we're practicing feelings here, so it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be, you're an adult person and you misjudged, you misjudged what your body would do if you were doing a master cleanse and you didn't realize that you would shit your pants. And then you do. So that could be like the shame thing, or it could be something small, like maybe you're at work and you've been in hours of equity training and you still misgender someone and you're like, I know that I'm not supposed to. Then you do all the right things and you apologize, but it's still just, you're just in the shower thinking about it. You guys, raise your hand if you got something you're ashamed of too. Cool. I mean, be kind to yourself. Thank you. Do you want to lose the boy background? No. Doing stuff video. Boop. 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 Hi, I'm back. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, hi. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clapping. So before we dip into questions, which I always think is really funny after I like put on some stupid puppet and sing some stupid song and then be like, any questions? But I just like want to go back to the place where I get stuck, which is what is true and what is helpful. And some of the things that I have found to be true at this part of my practice is that music is very hard. And for me, it's like super intimidating. I feel like I have a better grip on like my visual art making than my music practice. So like, so imposter syndrome is real. And then, so that's true that imposter syndrome is real, but what's helpful is to know that imposter syndrome's dumb. It's not dumb if you feel those feelings, but if you were to say the thing out loud that you're feeling, you'll realize that it's kind of dumb. Like, I'm afraid to make music because I have friends who are real musicians and they will hear it. And then I realize, after I say that out loud, that those people are already my friends and they have already heard this music and they have yet to say anything about it. But also, they don't think I suck, which is the thing that I mean, they're my friends, so they know I suck a little bit, like, on a human level, but the music level, it's okay. And I don't I mean, what else is true? I spent a lot of time in my 20s running as hard as I could at a couple of goals. And that was good, but it left me like super wrecked as a person. And it always feels weird to talk to other artists about that. Because I feel like we always, when I see some of my pals that are, I can see their faces right now, which is really exciting. So like when I see my friend Lonnie, I'm like, oh, we always talk about what we're making or whatever. But we also talk about, like what we're not making, because sometimes we're not making, and that's okay. So also what is helpful is reading books. I know it's a lot, but the thing that I got through graduate school with a lot of like making my computer read out loud to me, that was super helpful, and audiobooks are super helpful. And oftentimes when I'm feeling embarrassed or like mess up at work or whatever, I find that like listening or reading like someone who's incredibly talented just like talk about stuff is helpful. Crying is a big part of my practice. It's important to know that crying will and should happen. And as far as like another thing that's helpful is I listen to a lot of music. It makes me feel like a human. I am often I've been really listening to a lot of music that I feel like a little bit of shame around, but I'm talking about Sublime. I listen to them all the time. It's every morning. I have a playlist. It's terrible, and now it's on the internet that it's true. The other thing is like I have like transy body feelings about Brad Knoll's body. Why? Why him? I think that technically I'm hotter than him. Why would I want his torso? But I do. So that's kind of like the cloud of stuff that I'm working with right now. And I want to say thank you again. to Emmy and to the crew and to my roadie who did all of my changing all the video stuff. There they are. Yeah. So now I want to open it up to questions, if you guys have questions.
Thank you so much, JR. That was super, super wonderful. Really beautiful. Here's how I'd like to try to do this, team. Not because you're not feeling, but if folks could actually put down their hands. And first, if everyone puts down their hands, and then if you have a cue for the Q&A and you're a panelist, you could raise your hands and either Nellie or I will call on you, or you can pop your question into the Q&A little bubbles, and one of us will call on you. Nellie is giving some props on that water bottle. Do you have a sponsorship, JR? I mean,
Can you hear
that's
me?
the first question.
Yeah, my water bottle. Look, this is the result of internet shopping at night. That's all I have to say about it. I was like, I need to drink more water. I need to not lose any more water bottles, and I need to shame myself into drinking more water, and this is how I do it. Plus, it's a twofer, right?
Oh,
You know?
I respect a two for big time. Let's start with Olivia.
Hi, JR. Thank you.
Is this? Or I can't. Olivia with an A, right?
Yeah,
There
that's
you
me.
are. You're in the top corner.
Yeah, I dare any other department to say they cry more than ours. Um, I just noticed, Deanna Troy and Tasha Yar, and I just wondered if you could speak about Star Trek a little bit.
Oh, I sure can. How do I do this in a way that's not boring? Okay. I have lots of big feelings about Next Gen. Lots of things. Captain Picard. My dad looked like a Jewish version of Captain Picard. And it's crazy. So there's that, and then Tasha. Tasha and Picard always, Tasha's always like asserting herself, and Picard's like always like, dude, And so that relationship was really interesting to me. And then, spoiler alert, Tasha's like the best one, and they fucking kill her, like automatically. So the video that you saw that had the lyrics on it was a video I made a little while ago. As like an intro into like another song that I was playing, and as I was prepping for this, I was like, the video with Star Trek Next Generation, and then So You Think You Can Dance Next Generation, excuse me, with the children dancing. That's an older video. I really like TV, and I think that I'm really inspired by a lot of the characters in Star Trek. And then there was Troy, who's the ship's counselor, and Troy, who was on the boobs, the floating boobs in space. And Troy, I'm just going to say it. She looks like my auntie, and that makes me have lots of uncomfortable feelings. So... So like as I'm trying to like name what it feels like to be in a body, to be in my body, and to prep myself to like hack some stuff off of my body, like I don't have language for the feeling, but a similar feeling is like the discomfort that I feel when I look at Troy, and I have like I'm into her and she looks like my aunt. Oh man. So yeah, so whoops. And then the other video where you see her on the boobs, the end part of the dialogue that I'm saying is actually like dialogue from Star Trek, between Captain Picard and Troy, and it's after like he had just been taken over by the Borg. You know, it's a long thing. So his body was like invaded, and he was back in his body and kind of trying to figure that out. So yeah, a lot of Star Trek. And if you're gonna watch Star Trek, the order is Next Gen. What did we decide? Next Gen, Voyager. Even though Voyager during a pandemic is rough, it's like every single character it's rough. DS9, start in the 3rd or 4th season. If you're like, this is boring, I promise you it gets gay. And then you can watch Enterprise. It's like everyone is always like rubbing goo on each other in Enterprise. And then
I'm going to interrupt you because have you seen Discovery yet?
I have not seen Discovery.
Oh my God.
Okay, duly
It's
noted.
going to go to the front of your list.
Okay, it's
Mushroom networks, total like gender, everything. It's amazing.
okay, cool. Yeah, Star Trek is always, and the thing I think a lot about now, like being in the body too, is like from DS9, like Odo. He for anyone who's like, what the fuck? Like, why are we talking about Star Trek? Just it'll be over soon. But Odo is like a shapeshifter, and he set up his bedroom with all the stuff that he wanted to like feel what it was like to be like, and so he could shift into it. And so like we have a gym here, and so like I just roll around on the ground and be like, I have a body. So I don't know what your original question was, and there it is. Thank you for asking.
Can we go to Noelle? And then I have a question from Eli, but let's do Noelle first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I okay? I don't know. I also have a really nebulous question to go to follow up the Star Trek unrelatedly. I was wondering your thoughts about karaoke. I like just hearing people talk about karaoke. I guess with your music practice, I guess performing music or performing words as like stream of consciousness, but karaoke is like a scripted, like a very static scripted, but as static as it is like also at the same time the opposite of a static performing. Yeah, I don't know, whatever that means to you.
Killer. Yeah, karaoke is cool. I just like the karaoke served two purposes in that video. A, I can't remember any words to my songs. Like, that's real. B, I think I definitely wanted you guys to see the words in that song. And then C, the like character that is that suit, like it feels like a character that would do karaoke. It like needs a certain kind of like release. And I think that things like karaoke, or even not that they're the same, but like karaoke or like scrapbooking or like these practices that are creative, but not necessarily like you're not committing your life to be a scrapbook artist. You know, it's like your hobby. I think those are like ways for people who are not artists to like enter into a creative space and into a vulnerable space. And so I think karaoke is good for that. Karaoke is also how my colleagues and I survived graduate school. And so we, the bowels of Connecticut where there was nothing else to do. So it's personally, I got a soft spot for it. And Emmy Bright, your professor's great at karaoke.
Thanks, JR. We haven't gone out to do that yet. So I think did we get your question answered? Do you want to do any follow-ups, or should we turn it to Eli?
I think that was good. I guess, wait, JR, one more thing. What's your go-to karaoke song besides Morrissey? Do you have anything else?
Yeah. So, definitely. Good question. I have a Taylor Swift bit that I do with the karaoke. I think that Taylor really creates a lot of space for performers to emote, and so I love some T Swift for that. One time, a friend and I performed Superman by Laurie Anderson, she actually knew all the words and I didn't, so I was just like, what is she? Oh, for like 20 minutes. Cleared the room. The Cranberries are a great karaoke jam. And once again, I'd like to promote Emmy Bright and Emmy Bright's Jello Biafra approach to karaoke. Hall & Oates. Yeah, I think I hit everyone. Yeah. Good question.
Thanks, Noelle. Eli, I don't know if Eli is a panelist, but Eli, let me get this question correct. It's sort of zoomed up in the chat. This is from Eli Nixon. Can you talk about Dave's encouraging voice and attitude?
Yeah. So, there's so many things. So Dave is a real person. He's a great guy. He was I don't know how I got this recording of him giving me this pep talk, but I got it and I found it later and I was like, this is glorious. You'll notice some of my favorite parts of Dave's voiceover in that his Rhode Island accent comes out. It's very charming. This is a thing I kind of have done a lot in the past with my puppetry is like, and looking at it now, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. You're kind of a dude. That's why you keep doing these things where like dudes do voiceovers and you pretend to be them. Like, killing it. But yeah, so Dave's very naturally warm to be around, and so that's kind of where that comes from. And actually, I will say special shout out. The person who shot that is in the Zoom, Lani Asuncion, an amazing artist that you guys should look her up. So thank you for shooting that, Lani. You can tell when Lani shoots my work and when I try to shoot my work. It's different. Eli, did that get remotely close to answering your question?
Yeah, totally. That was great. I had no idea Dave was real. I was like, this script is out of control. And now I feel a new appreciation and I need to watch it all over again.
Dude, that's okay. So Dave Engel, that's just like straight off the dome. That's him improv.
That train was just wild. Loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for being here, man. It's good to see you.
Sorry, I'm in the dark. I'm folding laundry now.
That's fine. It's
Do you see any connection, JR, between like the karaoke and the Dave stuff, and like it sort of seems to me like inverse karaoke or something?
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just sort of thinking about the two questions next to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something there, right? Like, I don't know if this is gonna be a helpful tangent, but like, I sort of think about it like the way I use color too. You guys are printmakers, and I cannot mix color. Like, it's just not one of my gifts. And in graduate school, I really started leaning into like this idea of found color, like bright plastic bullshit color. I'm really into. Yeah, and I sort of had to stop being so hard on myself about like not being able to make color, but to find good color. And so it feels the same way with like karaoke or the voiceovers or something, like that it's always like trying to figure out what the juicy part is. And in that Encouragements with Dave video, there's this juicy voiceover, and the only thing that I could do is put the voiceover out there in front of, like, with this mask that's very bright and poppy, and you know, I asked Lonnie to come in and shoot it because I wanted a very specific camera look too. So it's kind of more like finding, I don't know, maybe karaoke is like you're finding the song rather than writing the song, and then something like that.
I think that's great. I relate to that for sure. I think Nellie had her hand up next. Nellie, would you go next?
I'm just interested in knowing about how what the relationship to theory is in your work, like how you either incorporate it and how it influences you or doesn't.
Theory, great question. So sorry, in the basement it's very cold. So the way I've sort of like do theory is I do like to read theory. I think it's probably my favorite type to just like sit down and like read and be like, yeah, and like highlight, as opposed to like you know, reading like James Baldwin or something and just like letting that shit, like listening to the audiobook of James Baldwin and letting it sort of like pour over you. That seems to fit better than theory. Okay, so what I do is usually I found like now my practice is really different from when I was in school. I usually spend a couple months just reading and just thinking about stuff. And yeah, and that's when my theory, it gets read, you know, and then it's in there, and then I end up sort of making stuff, and then the theory comes back in, like it floats back in. So it's not necessarily like a direct 1-2 relationship, but you know, like Sarah Ahmed's Queer Feelings, like I reread all the time. It's a great piece. Talks about grief and the body, and but because it's super dense. And I also like theory. I like the kind of theory that has like personal narrative with it, like Maggie Nelson stuff. Yeah, Ibram X. Kendi does it too. Like, and that stuff, you know, like it would be a dream to be that kind of writer, you know. So it's less like thinking of like, oh, I want to make artwork about grief, and so I'm gonna go find a bunch of readings for that, and it's more like, oh, this theorist is, I'm just kind of down with reading this, and then it works its way in. Plus, I'm always singing about the same shit: grief, God, no God, women, like girls being not one. Like it's just, so I'm kind of reading myself in a little circle.
Thanks. 2K, will you mind going next?
Hello. Thank you
Hello.
so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk with you later this week too. I'm just like noticing the way that you think about, I'm noticing some interesting presentations of puppetry in your work, and also just the way that you are kind of playful with like the relationship between performance across all of these different practices. And I was just curious if you could talk a little bit more about the kind of way that you're pushing puppetry into like a different maybe zone than what we might traditionally associate puppetry with, through the kind of performative and embodied aspects of the way you're thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Remember how I was talking about imposter syndrome before? It came flooding in, and then I was like, oh, duly noted. All that to say, I feel very strange talking about puppetry with people like Eli Nixon in the Zoom room, but who's an incredible puppeteer and very different kind of puppeteer than I am. I feel like they are able to use their body in a way that I cannot get. But so I'm a big fan of Eli Nixon stuff. Oh, I distracted myself. Okay, yes. So puppetry. So I went to the University of Connecticut in Storrs, Connecticut for my MFA, and I don't know if you know this, but it is one of the few schools that has a puppetry department. I was not in that department, but people who, like my advisors and whatnot, were like, you should go talk to the puppetry people. You do stuff that looks like that. And I was like, nah, dude, I don't want to. I'm busy. And so I did not pursue puppetry at all until like my last year or something. And I figured out that one of the guys who runs a puppetry department, like literally wrote the book on performing object. And I was like, well, I should, utilize my resources here. So I forced him to hang out with me, and I learned a lot from him. His name's John Bell. He's incredible. And we talked a lot about performing object. And that's the thing I sort of think about, because I think that, like, I'm not, like, it's not, I do narratives, like they exist, and I used to do more narratives where there was like a straight up voiceover narrative that would go over a performative act. But I very rarely, I think I've only once done like puppets like this, and once I tried to do a traditional, what's it called, where you open up like a suitcase and there's like a whole theater inside. And so I've tried a bunch of different kinds. Being in Providence really helped with that. There's a lot of like puppet freaks in Providence. So it's very easy to be inspired by the artists sort of around me. But I do think about performing object in sort of a weird way. There's this artist, his name is Stuart Sherman. He's one of my faves. And he does this stuff, or he did this stuff, he passed away, but he did this stuff where he would be he's a street performer, and he would have like little trucks and just little figurine ways. And I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, there's no narrative. Or if there is, he's not letting us into this narrative. But because of the objects he chose, like a little truck or a little army man or whatever, he's moving them so intentionally that it sort of forces my brain to like build a narrative, because you got the symbol and the all the importance of his movement. And so I sort of like the idea of performing object as a way to point at something, and you can do that with narrative too. I'm just not as good at narrative, but I feel like objects have their own histories, and people bring what they bring to like the weird stuff that you put in front of them, and then they start constructing their own narratives. So yeah, but it's interesting. Like I have I feel weird. I still feel weird being like, oh, I'm a puppeteer, when I've really been doing it for like 15 years. I should just lean in, yeah. Thank you.
So much.
All right, I don't see other hands up. So, I would like to follow up on something that Eli is putting in the chat, which is that you're a clown, which
Yeah.
Eli and I both see. But have you thought more about that? Or is that something you're like naming yourself at all? Or is that just us wanting to name you that?
Well, you guys can name me whatever you want. First of all, it's great. No, I think that the clown as a form, like 100%, and it was a thing that I was kind of doing, and then it was introduced to me that was like a thing, like that. Emmy and I talked about this before, like Buffon clowning and stuff like that, where your body is like restricted and you're kind of like a monster. And I mean, clown is I think that I sort of course lean closer to clown than maybe even puppeteer, just because and I think I'm stealing this language from Emmy, so, but like clown's like being an inside out person. Um, and also clown, you can play little games with clown, you know, you just kind of like pick a game in the middle of your performance and you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and that's a part of clown. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting form, and I definitely relate to it. And I think there's lots of different kinds of like clown shows and performance shows, but the creating like an affective experience, I feel like it feels really clown to me. So yes, I am a clown.
Thanks, Jamie. I think there's also a way that clowns don't die, or they die like 1,000 times, but they kind of like keep popping up or finding a way to pop up. And I see that in the like many horrible, difficult things happen in your performances, and then like, boop, you're still there, only a little different, but not that different. But I'm looking at, I think we've held you for a long time already. So I appreciate that you still have that as certificate as your wallpaper.
You guys see what I'm looking at? What you're looking at here? Do you know about this? Do you know?
They don't know.
Do you know that the Emmy Bright was not only awarded this award in 1999 from the Michelle Obama? There's her signature. Michelle Obama not only awarded this award to Emmy Bright, but also designed it. All this clip art up here, Michelle Obama original, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you never know what Emmy Bright has up her sleeve. She also went to school with Tyra Banks.
That's not true. And you also went to school with Tyra Banks, if that's the case. JR and I both went to school with Tyra Banks, but yeah, the certificate is authentico, as we say in our house. So thank you for saving that. I'm going to give you some JRUretsky shakeres as a way of closing us out. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Why don't everybody who can turn on your mic and either like clap or say thank you or both, and like make some noise. It's weird to I missed someone having their hand up. Oh, damn. I'm sorry, attendee. Sorry. Thanks, everybody, for coming.